ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. It's Saturday morning, March 2001 in Panama City, Florida. I'm a 14-year-old teen trying to figure out who I am in this world. Despite it being March in Florida, the weather is cool, there's a dense fog in the air, and today is the beginning of our soccer season. My team is the Wildcats, and we have a real chance at winning the championship this year. The night before, I'm super excited. I got my uniform ready. I put it on as soon as I woke up. I could already smell the fresh cut grass. I could feel the beads of sweat running down my face as I ran up and down the soccer field. I could hear Coach Mark yelling at us, "Change formation! Mo, pass the ball! Mo, pass the ball!" He said that a lot. He'd say that a lot. But before we head out, my mom says, you have to do your Quran class. You're not going to go to soccer unless you do your Quran class. So begrudgingly, I comply. I do my Quran class, I do my lesson, and we head out to Hardersfield as soon as possible. It was a heated match. We gave it our best shot. We played well. Maybe I should have passed the ball more, but we ended up losing. And I'm disappointed, despondent, defeated. And as we're walking back to the car, my mom says, it's midday. It's time for the midday prayer, dhuhr, as we call it in Arabic. Honestly, the prayer was the last thing on my mind. I just want to go home. Mom, where am I going to pray? There's people around. Let's just wait till we go home. She says to me calmly, Muhammad. At this point, she knew how to get to me because soccer, in this point in my life, is everything. And she says, if you could meet with an important soccer player or a soccer coach or some teacher for school, you would take the opportunity. You, with this prayer, have an opportunity to meet your Creator, to meet Allah, which is the Arabic word for God. This is the most important meeting. God is inviting you to a private conversation with Him. And when it's time to pray, you take the opportunity. So, reluctantly, I try to find a corner where no one's gonna see me, no one's gonna pay me any attention, and I find a quiet corner by myself, hoping no one pays me any attention. And so I find a corner of the parking lot, and I move through the motions as fast as I can, my head down, my eyes low. In that moment, I'm not trying to connect with God. I'm trying to finish this prayer as fast as possible, hoping no one sees me, hoping I could be normal. Because without anyone saying it, I felt as if there were parts of me that were not welcome on that soccer field. So I tried to be invisible. I tried to be normal. And this was my dual reality. Growing up between worlds that felt incompatible. On one hand, I'm an Arab, a Muslim, the son of immigrants from the Middle East. On the other hand, I'm a white boy from an area known as Lower Alabama, where we're surrounded by pickup trucks, country music, and Confederate flags. Again, worlds that felt at odds with each other. And then, a few months later, September 11, 2001, a day that none of us will ever forget. I remember exactly where I was on that day. I was at school. We were sitting outside on the picnic table. And the principal comes to us and he dismisses us from school. And I have no idea what's happening and why we're being dismissed. So I'm kind of happy to go home. And then we find out what happened. And as an American, seeing the Twin Towers collapse with planes crashing into them, I'm grieving as an American. I'm mourning the innocent lives that were lost that day. And then we come to find out that they're blaming all Muslims for this heinous attack. And I recall my dad coming home, scared for us, concerned for our safety, for our well-being. The next morning, I recall vividly the local radio jockey on the radio called for the community to round up all the Muslims and burn them alive to seek revenge for the lives lost on 9/11. It was a moment of great shame and confusion. Is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with my religion? And for years, I carried that weight. For years, I thought these two worlds that I lived in were at odds with each other. For years, I felt that these two worlds that I lived in were at war with each other. And I carried that weight. And then a neighbor with a generous spirit and a smoker started to quietly lift it. Our next door neighbor, Gary, was one of the most genuinely kind and generous people I had ever met. And he loved to barbecue. He'd smoke just about anything. So one day, my mom decided to share some of her home cooking with Gary and his family. And she made the traditional national dish of her home country, Jordan. It's called mensef. Ironically, mensef can mean explosion. I know. It actually means platter, okay? It means platter, but it is an explosion of flavors. Tender lamb cooked in a tangy fermented yogurt sauce, served over a platter of rice and thin bread. And Gary loved it. Gary loved it. He came over right afterwards. He said, "How'd you make this lamb? What's this yogurt sauce? What spices did you use?" And he, next week, came over with a grilled lamb that he made for us so that we can enjoy that as well. And that moment of connecting over food made me realize that these two worlds that I thought were at odds with each other were not at odds. These two worlds were mirrors of each other. Let me explain. You see, you hear about Southern hospitality, right? You see a tang coming out. Well, there's something called Arab hospitality, and they mean the same thing, and they're just dressed differently. For example, in both cultures, you don't let your guests leave with an empty stomach. In both cultures, dinner at the family table is a sacred, special moment. In the Florida Panhandle, where I grew up, family is everything. And I don't mean just your parents and your siblings. I mean your cousins, your aunts, your next door neighbor that's been coming over for Sunday dinner for 20 years. Family is everything. It's the network of people who show up without being asked when something goes wrong. In Arab culture, there's a word for that. It's called ahl, your people, your network. Different worlds, different words, same instinct. There's another word in Arabic, ihtiram. It means deep honor or respect. The type of respect where you stand up when an elder walks into the room. The type of respect where you don't start eating until everyone's seated at the table. I grew up around that as a Muslim, as an Arab. But I also grew up around yes, ma'am, and no, sir. Around men who took off their hats when a woman walked into the room. Around the kind of manners that are not performance. They're a statement. They're a statement about who you are and how you see other people. Both cultures were saying the same thing. You matter here. You are not invisible here. In the South, faith is not something to just practice on Sunday. Faith is the organizing principle of life. You mark time by it. You make decisions through it. You introduce yourself in the South by the church you attend before you introduce yourself by your job. And growing up as a Muslim, I thought we were slightly different. But I realized that as Muslims, our neighbors, our Christian neighbors did the same thing. We mark time by prayer 5 times a day, the prayer reshaping every rhythm of every hour. We made decisions through prayer. We introduce ourselves through prayer. Gary might say the Lord willing, but my mom says inshallah. And both of them mean the exact same thing. Both of them are saying, I'm not the one in control here. Both of them are saying there is something bigger than me that holds all of this together. These parallels didn't just change how I saw myself. They changed how I moved through the world. I thought I was being torn between worlds that were at war with each other. But in actuality, I was being woven by both. Fast forward nearly 20 years. I've gone to college, to law school. I spent years as a prosecutor learning how institutions wield power. I've defended multi-billion-dollar insurance companies as an insurance defense attorney. I learned exactly how insurance companies think, how they operate, and how they decide who gets paid and who gets ignored. I had spent my career standing in both rooms. I knew what the powerful said when the vulnerable were not listening. And I realized that everything I had spent my life learning, how to stand in the middle, how to speak two languages, was pointing me somewhere specific. And I decided to switch sides. I co-founded a law firm to represent homeowners whose lives were destroyed, whose homes were destroyed, and whose claims had been denied, whose lives had been on hold while a billion-dollar insurance company stalled. These were people who had faithfully paid their insurance premiums and were being told in the most bureaucratic language possible that they did not qualify. They were being told that their suffering had a technicality. One of my first clients, I'll call her Miss Linda, walked into my office after Hurricane Michael, a devastating Category 5 hurricane in the Panhandle. She was several months behind on her mortgage. Her insurance claim had been denied 3 separate times, and she stopped believing that anyone was coming to help her. And I remember her sitting across from me and saying to me, I just need someone who actually cares. I just need someone who's going to fight for me like I matter. And instantly, I recognized that feeling. I knew that feeling, not because of college, not because of law school, but because of my lived experiences. I knew what it felt like. I knew what it felt like to be in the room, but not feel fully seen. I knew what it felt like to be the one living the experience and still be told they don't believe you. I had spent my whole life learning to speak 2 languages at once, and now those 2 languages had names, the language of fear and the language of power. And for the first time, I was exactly the right person to stand in the middle. I think about that 14-year-old boy praying in the corner of the parking lot, rushing through his prayer, hoping no one would see him. I want to go back and I want to tell him, don't rush. Don't be afraid. You're not broken. You're not fractured. You are being built. You are being formed. And today, many people live between identities. And to them, I say what feels like fracture is not weakness. It is formation. So if you're living between worlds today, good. Good. Stay there. That's where you're being held together. Thank you.